Good afternoon and welcome to Why Circular Economy Makes Business Sense, Creating Thriving Economies. The webinar is brought to you by Circular South Africa in collaboration with Fetola and Hloolo. I am Katharina Gihring, the CEO of the African Circular Economy Network, which is the custodian of Circular South Africa. I am not alone here today. With me, I have Katharina Wijnberg, Samreen, Kumandan, and Mems Ramalia. I'm going to take you through a welcome and an introduction, just a bit of a background around why circular economy makes business sense. But then we're going to hear from Fetola around their circular economy accelerator from Katharina directly. And also we're going to hear from the two entrepreneurs that were actually incubated. So please keep your questions ready during the webinar and make sure to post them in the Q&A chat. I'm very grateful to have Katharina, Samreen, and Mems with me today. Thank you so much for making time and sharing your insights and the information that you have gathered during the incubator, but also letting us a little bit be part of the story that you, Samreen and Mems, have gone through and where you are currently at with your businesses. And then, as I said, we have a Q&A right at the end, and then we are going to close the webinar off. Let me jump into the first part of the webinar before I'll give over to Katharina. So some of you might know Circular South Africa, but for those that do not know CSA, we're here to amplify the potential and value of the just circular economy across South Africa, and we are the fastest growing circular economy platform in the country. So why we believe in a circular economy? Well, South Africa is an extractive-based economy, and that has unfortunately led to social inequality, environmental degradation, and resource depletion. And we believe that the circular economy provides South Africa with a regenerative alternative compared to the current linear take, make, and waste, also called linear economy, as I just said. We're following the global fundamental principles of the circular economy, which is designing out waste and pollution, regenerating natural systems, keeping materials at their highest value, and we are always adding the fourth principle, which is benefiting all members of society, because having the social impact is really important. We need to create a just and an inclusive transition. Some of you might have seen this as well already, is currently, as I mentioned, we are living in a linear economy. So we are extracting all our resources, and then once we're done with the products, we actually discard them. And this is causing a lot of issues. Somewhat, South Africa is in a recycling economy. We all know there is quite a bit of recycling happening in post-consumer packaging, but this pertains mainly to the food and the beverage packaging itself. But within a circular economy, you really try to keep from the onset, so from the design stage, you make sure that those products are being designed in a way that you can extend, for example, its lifetime, or you make sure that it can be maintained, it can be serviced, so that you really keep that value within the economy. If we're speaking about businesses, we have to speak about value creation and destruction. And this graphic or illustration is quite iconic in the circular economy. So I'll quickly take you through it. On the left-hand side, you see the extraction of raw minerals and resources. So everything that basically is made of, like even this the sweater, you can see extraction from, in this case, it would be wool, so a sheep. Then manufacturing is happening. We assemble the product, let's say a laptop, and then it goes to the retail store, and then the user will consume the product or will buy the product and then use the product. And here where the user is actually buying the product, it has its highest economic value, right? And what we're seeing in a linear economy, the product is usually slowly but surely, depending on the product that you're speaking about, losing its value. So it reaches its end of life, and unfortunately a lot of times we still see that landfilling is happening or discarding in the environment. So littering is happening of products, and there's no proper waste management in place. But unfortunately, waste management or proper recycling economy won't solve the issues that we're currently facing. So we need a bit of a different approach than a linear economy, where we're focusing predominantly on as much consumption as possible. And this is where the value hill comes in. So as I said, you have the linear economy on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, now you're seeing the closing the loop kind of concepts. And this is the circular economy, where you think about reuse and redistribution. So once you're done with your product, can it be reused? Let's think about a cell phone. Can it have a second life? Do we need to buy a cell phone every 2 years? Most of the time, the functionalities are still perfect. We can also think about refurbishing it. So does a cell phone need a new battery, for example, or an upgraded camera, right? Can we design a cell phone in a modular way so that we can upgrade it to a new camera instead of buying a new cell phone? And remanufacturing speaks more to when you use parts of a product and create a new product from it. And only lastly, you really see the recycling side of things. So really important is the onset of design and the higher the R level. So within the circular economy, there are 10 Rs, and a few of them are listed here. And reuse, refurbish, and remanufacture is quite high up. And this is where you really want to maintain the value of a product, right? So you really want to make sure that this value is kept within the economy compared to the other illustration that I just showed you, where the product is actually losing its value. So just a few, I think, interesting facts is obviously we have a lot of hidden footprints in our current value chains globally of products that we produce, but we could technically reduce input resources such as water, energy, or land. We can reuse input resources such as water. We can also use nature-based solutions to solve some of our issues. And then with a circular economy mindset, you would also think about a circular economy business model. So for example, a product as a service. Most of you will know Spotify, where you don't really buy the CD anymore, but you are actually buying a subscription to which provides you the music, right? You want the service of music. Sharing platforms can be another really practical example. I think Yaga is often mentioned. Obviously, again, if a second-hand platform or platform can become also problematic. So there are always downsides to these platforms as well, because if you're constantly rotating your wardrobe every 2 months, let's say, that is not very circular either. Yes, you are buying only second-hand, but you're constantly still consuming clothing. Then circular supplies is really more renewable inputs. And here you can think about products that are made out of renewable materials. I've already spoken to product life extension, right? To design for durability of a product. And recovery of resources can also be done, but again, it depends always on the context. Waste to energy is often mentioned, but in the African context, rather difficult, especially at industrial scales. And you really want to make sure that the circulation is taking place. And then I've just mentioned digitalization and AI as enablers for circular business models to also make sure that your supply chains or value chains can actually become transparent for yourself as well, so that you understand also where you get your resources from. And I also believe for SMEs, it will become really, really important to think about digitalization and AI as companies are currently, or big companies are currently doing it. So let's have a look at a few numbers. These studies are rather old, but it was really about understanding how much value, so economic value, can be created by implementing a circular economy. And the first kind of study was really looking at, it could actually create $4.5 trillion by 2030, sorry. And then Europe looked into 3 distinct sectors, which was transport, the built environment, and food systems. And that could actually contribute another 1.8 trillion in the sectors. So again, it just, I think, shows that there is a lot of economic potential. Indirect benefits for companies are lowering of greenhouse gas emissions, so aligning with the with the Paris Agreement and other agreements. But obviously, there are other impacts as well that companies are having, right? It's not just greenhouse gas emission; it could be also land destruction, for example. It can contribute to you as a company being more competitiveness, aligning with ESG, and as I said, other reporting requirements, and then also making sure that your company has resource security. Because we have seen over the last few years, I think COVID was a really good example around how unstable value chains can become. So circular economy makes really good business sense because it decreases the cost by lowering resource use, increasing resilience and profits, creating long-term sustainability for your company, position your organization as front runner, and adhering to local and global legislative changes. I think importantly, it's also to mention that circularity isn't done overnight. Currently, we see circularity around 7% globally, and circularity is a journey. So you have to make small changes and start small without wanting to be 100% circular from the get-go, which is really, really important. So now we are going to get to our first speaker. I'm having the big pleasure to introduce Katharina Wijnberg to you. She's the founder and director of Fetola. And Katharina is passionate about the radical scaling of successful small businesses to enable inclusive, sustainable economic growth, social well-being, and job creation. As CEO of Fetola, this means building businesses that last to create reliable, responsible, and resilient social enterprises and companies that become the anchor of our economy. She was born in Zambia and educated across the world. Katharina has 2 degrees in agriculture, an MBA, and 30 years of business growth experience. She has created enterprises in 5 different sectors and 3 different countries. Katharina, it is a pleasure to have you here today, and over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Katharina, and welcome to everybody. I think we got a really great full house. I see over 80 people here, which is really fantastic. Yeah, I'm just going to be giving a little bit of an overview of some work that we've done with small businesses. And so now let me see if I can just be as clever as Katharina and get my slides up here as well. This is new to be using Teams online sharing. So let me see what I've got here.
Perfect. It looks brilliant.
Great. Okay. So now, and unfortunately, I can't see you, which is not great. Anyway, let's just go with this. So be circular or be square. I think the thing is that circularity is a movement that's growing, and I've been very excited over my time in the sustainability sector to come across circularity because it really is the game changer. And we've been doing this for over 10 years. So I'm going to get to that now. But essentially, for those of you that don't know Fetola, so we've been in the sector for, oops, we've got a bit of a lag here. There we go. We've been in the sector for almost 20 years now. And our focus is to, I'm jumping around here. Can you see that about Fetola now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just go back.
Yeah, it's driving itself. It's driving itself. Let's play nicely now. Yeah, so we've been in business helping small businesses to thrive. What we say is we help people to start, grow, and scale their business, and we help them all the way from the beginning of their journey through investment readiness, all the way to access to an affordable ladder of finance. We're very focused on sustainability, and as I said earlier, we've been in the sustainability space now for almost 15 years. We've run 7 different sustainability initiatives, and this initially just speaking about sustainability. And now, as I say, very excited to come across circularity because for me, from a business growth specialist, circularity finally really makes sense. There's a very good business case for it. And we found it to be very easily understood by business owners, not just small business, but large business and corporates as well. So over time, we've helped more than 250 businesses, and we have some reasonable impact during the period of acceleration in those 7 programs. This is me. These are the 2 books that I've written, particularly The Art of Acceleration is just recently released. So those of you in the audience that are interested in catalyzing success in small business, that's kind of gives you the secrets to our success over the last almost 20 years. And I think it's a really good read. And Mems, who we're going to speak to later, is also highlighted there. But before we go further, I think it's really important to know who's in the room. So I want to ask if you wouldn't mind just answering these couple of questions. First of all, where are you joining us from? Be interesting to know what sector, what province you're from. Then also, how would you describe yourself? Are you a support organization? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a corporate or maybe an investor? And then lastly, so that I know who to call on if I need expert advice. How many of you are experts, have some knowledge, or circularity is completely new to you?
Catherine, I also just ask everyone to please use the chat to answer the questions.
Yes, so sorry, I added it into the chat, yeah.
Awesome.
Questions, where are you from? Who are you? And what's your level of understanding? Addis, oh, fantastic. Wow, welcome. Hey, welcome from Ethiopia. Wow, welcome from Nairobi as well. This is fantastic. Great. KZN, entrepreneur, that's nice. Not-for-profit, KZN. Some knowledge, entrepreneur, that's great. South Africa, Dumisani, what's your level? Maybe just, are you an entrepreneur? IDC, fantastic. Engineer and an entrepreneur, and you're an expert. Great, Jerome. I'll be calling on you if I get stuck for answers. Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, entrepreneur from South Africa. Okay, Stuart from IDC. Welcome, Stuart. Mpumelelo. Okay, great. Activist, entrepreneur, and engineer. This is amazing. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. Sustainability practitioner running your consulting company. Welcome, Kim. It's fairly advanced knowledge of circularity. That's fantastic. Richard, energy, water, waste. Some knowledge. Waste advisors. Expert. Okay, excellent. DTIC, government. Entrepreneur. Joining from Kenya. Welcome, Anne. That's fabulous. Great, eh? Yeah, Gay Evans, Joburg, environmental consultant, Mushroom, awesome. Some knowledge, some knowledge. All right. Okay, I think that's really great. Thank you so much, guys. All right, there we go. Perfect. Can you see the slide? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so Katharina's given you a really nice overview of circularity, kind of the theory of circularity, its value, its purpose, and how it plays in the economy. I always come from it from a different perspective. I'm not a circularity specialist at all. I am a business growth specialist. And so in Fetola, we work with entrepreneurs, with business owners who want to always come to us with these 4 key questions. The first question is, how do I make my business more profitable? The second question is, how can I create sustainable jobs? And in a country such as South Africa, where there's such huge unemployment, this is a really key question that entrepreneurs ask themselves, because always around you are people that are unemployed. And so this mindset of being able to create a business that benefits not just yourself, but others is really key. The third is, if my business is growing, how can I access affordable finance? Because not just in South Africa, right across the African continent, in fact, probably right across the world, it's very difficult for small businesses to access finance. It's one of the big bugbears, that there's all that money there, but entrepreneurs can't actually access it. And then the fourth question is, as an entrepreneur, if I've managed to tackle 1, 2, and 3, how can I also become planet positive? And so it's with this in mind that we kind of go forward in this presentation just to quickly answer some of these questions. The first is what we advise entrepreneurs, some of the key, and this is just really top level, not in depth, but the first way, or one of the ways to make your business more profitable is to diversify your product or service offerings. The way to create sustainable jobs is to improve your profitability by refining your value proposition and really focusing on your ideal clients. The third, how would you access affordable growth finance? That we know that part of this is about making sure that you track and report your performance. So you're not just tracking financial performance, which is one of the key weaknesses of so many businesses. They do really good stuff, but they haven't looked after their financial record keeping. So when they go to ask for finance, they don't even have a basic set of accounts to show. But more than that, if you're a sustainability business, it's making sure that you're also tracking and managing your social and environmental metrics, because these are your assets when you go looking for finance. And then the last one is, how do you become more planet positive? And what's so exciting about the work that we've done is we've really shown that using circular economy methods, you can do that. So let's just move on quickly. So this, I love this slide deck, and I see Katharina also shared it, so I'm not going to belabor this, but I just want to say I really want to point out point number 2 here. It's really important to understand that circularity is a journey. And I think one of the things I'm really passionate about is telling business owners, telling small businesses that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything before you start. Making some change towards circularity is really powerful. And you'll see when I go to the data, the collective impact of everybody doing something and moving slowly, moving towards circularity creates ecosystem success. And then, yes, what we'll show is that it is good for profit, people, and planet. Again, Katharina showed this high level one, 4.5 trillion. That's fantastic. But I think it's important to know that in Africa, we're creating 125 million tons of waste every year. But more than that, there's a plastic waste crisis. So it's one thing to have a waste that can be composted. It's another thing to be creating waste that is there in perpetuity. And so what we really understand is that circular thinking is no longer this kind of nice to have. It really sits and weaves itself into everybody's life, all the way from the consumer through the business owner to government. So just very quickly, I thought these couple of stats. It's also important to know that why is it important in South Africa? Is because we are the 7th largest coal producer, which is hectic. We're the 14th largest emitter of greenhouse gases, which, considering the size of our economy, is a bit breathtaking. But this one really gets me. Mpumalanga has the worst air pollution in the world. Because of the coal, because of the coal power plants there, and I think that that's not a top of class metric that we're proud of. So we really have, when we talk about climate, we talk about it really crushing in on us. It's really something that is true to us as individuals in South Africa. Again, it's not somebody else's problem over there. It's really our problem. I'm just going to skip through this one. I think, Katharina, you've covered it well. These kind of 4 concerns of our environmental issues in South Africa, they all affect all of us. Air pollution, waste, overload of waste. We no longer have places to put it. We're only recycling probably less than 10% of our waste. We really suffer from global warming. What's interesting about global warming, the impact of climate change, is it's been shown to be have a most negative effect in societies that have great inequality. And we have the highest inequality, the highest Gini coefficient in the world. And so as South Africa, we are really a country that is set to be seriously hit by climate change impact. So it's really something that we need to be concerned about. And then side to side with that is biodiversity loss. But moving on. So what I'm really here to talk about is what are the benefits then we found for sharing circular economy methods for small businesses? How did we help entrepreneurs to answer these 4 critical questions? So what we did is in 2022, we started our Circular Economy Accelerator. It was the first Circular Economy Accelerator in South Africa. We selected 46 entrepreneurs from all over the country. You can see every single province. And they were 40% male, 60% female led, and 50% youth. And what's very interesting is only 17% were from the urban environment, 80% of them were either rural or township. But also what is really profound is that they came from virtually every single sector. There almost isn't an industry that isn't represented in this cohort of 46. And why that's important is because what we'll show is that the transition towards circularity, the benefits of circular methods, really cross-cut right across almost every business model, every sector that the entrepreneurs came from. So what we did is we used our standard Fetola growth method. So we have a very well developed, very effective methodology that we put all of our accelerators through. And in addition to our standard accelerator method, we we put in a real strong component of circular economy understanding, circular economy training, and that was the difference between what we normally do and what happened on this accelerator. It was that component of circularity that really made this accelerator different from everything else that we had previously done. The principles that we spoke to, first of all, this concept of design out waste. Secondly, helping people to understand how to maximize product use. And then lastly, this concept of restoring natural systems. So really the fundamentals, sharing early fundamentals, what is circularity, a little bit deeper, how does that impact your business? And then the last component is, and how can you use it to make a difference in your business? And so the business case that we found, that the entrepreneurs found, is first of all the concept of reduce expenses. The primary one is this concept of design out waste. So reducing waste in your production and packaging. So really reducing, being very, very mindful of saying, how can I design out waste in my systems so I'm not creating the waste in the first place? There are two others there as well, but I'm not going to go into everything in detail. I think that I just have tried to pick out the main one in each of these areas. First, the first one really is this thing of design out waste, because it cuts across every business. I mean, that's the thing. If you're an entrepreneur, it's like manna from heaven. Just that language of saying, I can help you to design out waste, because immediately you're going to become more profitable and more efficient in your business. The second one is we help people using circularity to increase revenue. And the way that we did this is to help them to diversify, because the profound thing about circular thinking is that it brings other ways, other concepts of how to build revenue, adding new circular income streams, using byproducts, unused materials, or even going into alternative markets. And so I think that one of the important things here is when you diversify revenue, you also improve the business resilience, because you move away from having maybe a single client or a single product in having maybe 3, 4, or 5 different revenue streams. Then the fourth component is really using circular methods in order to build positive impact. And again, here the idea is right from the beginning is making sure and helping people to understand the importance of not just having an intention to do good, or not just having an intention to be profitable or build jobs or reduce impact on the climate, but it's very, very important to identify which of these metrics you're going to track, and then to track them consistently over time, and then use those metrics, use that data in order to build trust with your clients, and particularly if you're going to be using data as an asset. So again, well, I'll show at the end of the deck just a little bit about how people were successful in accessing finance. And the reason they were able to access finance largely is because they had done this. They had recorded, they'd used performance data to build and show their performance. And then the last component is growing jobs. And so the thing is, again, the business case really showed that people were able to increase their employment as a result of diversified revenue and greater business resilience. So they grew, then became more profitable. And as a result of that, they were able to grow jobs. And also very many of the methods actually are quite people intensive. And so it really was a good, circularity really proved itself to be tops for job creation. So yeah, so these were the circular revenue streams that the entrepreneurs were advised to take up. And just very briefly, some of those, for those of you that in the room are not the experts. So first of all, product life extension, and Patagonia is a great example of that, because what they do is that they make really, really good products anyway. They make good clothing and garments, but they also show people how to repair. They have repair workshops and the repair kits so that you don't just kind of wear it for a season and throw it away. Sharing platforms, again, another nice way to generate revenue. So somebody that maybe had a boardroom that they didn't use, that they can rent it out. The concept of saying, oh, yes, I can rent it out for a secondary income, or maybe to share costs like Workshop 17. Yeah, rental. A lot of people are getting onto this now, rental of tools rather than buying your own. All really nice circularity methods that many people can bring into a business if they think about it. And then the last thing is reselling, and there's a real increase. I know there's lots of young people that are very proud of the fact that they only buy kind of rehomed garments, rehomed equipment as well. And that's another way, again, as an entrepreneur, that you can bring in secondary income streams. And from a circularity point of view, that's really good for the planet. So the results very quickly. So of the 46 businesses that were on the program, they grew within the 18 months of the Accelerator at 400% growth, which is very good compared to some of the other programs that we run. And they became 70% more profitable, which is really profound. It's a very, very significant number, very significantly higher than average. And more than that, what is really important to understand is that these businesses, this cohort, grew at double the rate of a similar, in fact, really like-for-like accelerator that was running at the same time in a very similar environment, very similar businesses, size of businesses, location of businesses, but those businesses did not have access to circular economy methods. And so these businesses that had access to those circularity grew at double the rate of businesses that didn't have that knowledge. And that's a very, very profound piece of information that we took away from this. More than that, job creation was really excellent. The cohort grew 196 new jobs, retained 200. So it's not like you're growing new and losing some. They really, there's a net job creation. And they added 4.3 jobs per SME, which is equal to and better than many other accelerators that running at the same time. So these were the new revenue streams that they added. So you'll see there are some percentages there, different businesses that added different revenue streams. I have to say that of the 46 businesses, 45 of them added new revenue streams. The last one didn't do so because they had already kind of maxed out on their circularity. There was no more opportunity for them to add new revenue streams. But every other 45 of the 45 did add new revenue streams. And this is also very, very significant because just by informing people of what is possible, giving them some basic training and support, they were able not only to understand the opportunity, but to actually take up the opportunity in the 18 months. They not only had circularity impact, a number of them also showed on environmental impact. That would be then following ESG metrics. But the last question, if you remember at the beginning, I said the entrepreneurs really struggle with access to finance. And what we found historically is green businesses struggle even more than regular businesses. And so this information was also very, very profound for us. As in conjunction to the Circular Economy Accelerator, we were working with the Nedbank Green Economy Fund, so Fetola manages that fund. And the fund is now fully deployed. Capital was provided to businesses right across the country. 45 businesses were funded through this Green Economy Fund, and there were just over the period. I think it's now a year since it's been running. There's been a 53% income growth in those businesses, and another 250 jobs created. So a lot of the businesses that were in the Circular Economy Accelerator were able to go on and get access to green grants like this. Some of them also have then managed to go on to apply for concessionary loans from Fetola's SME fund, and there are a number of deals already in the pipeline at the moment. This slide is a little bit outdated, but yeah, there's some very exciting deals coming through for catalytic finance from the same cohort. And then some of them also have gone on to access further finance through our partners, Nedbank. And so it really showed that, I think this is very exciting that not just businesses just didn't improve in profitability in job creation, but they were really able to access the growth finance that they need to take their businesses to the next level as a result of the work that we did with them in circular methods. Yeah, so yeah, maybe so that's the end of my slide deck. I just really want to just say pose this question. So if there's entrepreneurs in the room and you want to access this kind of information yourself, and you want to maybe be on the next accelerator, please do join us with on through our website. And the same with investors. If this is the kind of results that you're interested in, or you want to maybe co-share or co-partner with other investors in the green space, in circularity, also please just join up, or else just pop me a mail. And I'll get back to you immediately. Those are the contact details. So maybe just before I go on, I just want to ask: are there any questions before we go on and interview some of our amazing entrepreneurs that were on that program? Oh, you got Richard's got a hand up.
Yeah. So let me just unmute Richard. Okay, Richard, I think the mic is yours. So just unmute yourself, and then you can speak and ask your question.
Hello.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Now my challenge here is that I think there was a comment that was raised there, how the entrepreneurs are having challenge with finances. So I mean, how can we get some assist if maybe in case we want to get some help?
Thanks, Richard. Are you an entrepreneur or are you an investor? Just maybe to understand.
No, I'm an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. All right. Look, I think so there's a couple of levels on this. So in Fetola, we do manage a green grant fund, the Nedbank Green Grant Fund, and we do have Fetola Catalytic Fund that is specifically focused on green businesses. So I think if you're an entrepreneur looking for access to finance, why don't you just pop me an email? You can pop me an email. My details there are in the slide deck. And then also I suggest that you join hloolo.com. So Hloolo is our online platform that provides access, free access to information, how to make yourself more funding ready, helps to match you to funds that would be suitable to your business. Would that help you? I think that's satisfied there. All right, great. We got Tato quickly. Yeah, go for it, Tato.
Katharine, can I just ask you to unshare your screen, I think, because then it will zoom in. And then, Tato, let me also just unmute you. Oh, well, let me enable you to use your microphone. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now, Tato.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tato Mashwene, and I am the owner-operator of Covenant Consultancy. What we are looking to do is participate in the agricultural sector, really at the intersection of agriculture and energy. So where we would have our own solar farm that sort of powers our green space. It is a fairly new project where we are in the execution phase of this. Is we have agreement with a chief, and this would be primarily a community operated operation, and I am the head entrepreneur leading that engagement. So from Fetola and Hloolo, what resources are available to sort of help in creating the strategic sort of roadmap to where we would like to be, given that we have land and we have a youth force in the community that is unemployed. And part of this organization is we also have various individuals that have been in corporate spaces like larger farming operations, but we do not know where to go to in as far as beginning operations and getting access to finance.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tato. That sounds really exciting. Well done. I think it sounds like a really interesting project. I think the first proviso I'll say is that it's important that your business is profitable. So the days of thinking just because we're doing the right thing for the planet, people are going to pay more for a product are completely over. You need to make sure that your produce is competitive from a price perspective and doing good for the planet, not all. And so that's the starting point, is just to make sure that your model is profitable. I think secondly, it's really important to understand that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get startup finance anywhere in the world, actually. And so you need to prove your model first before you can go looking for finance. So you need to have done some initial work showing that the model works, showing that you do know how to farm or whatever it is. I'm not sure at the level of development that you're at, but it is very important to do your homework first, get your wins, get some small wins on the table before you go looking for finance. But I do suggest that the support email for Hloolo's there just popped in the chat, and if you bop them a mail, hello@hloolo.com, I'm sure they'll be able to give you more information that you need. Thanks so much for that question. Really great stuff. It sounds fantastic. Look forward to hearing more about it.
Thanks,
All
Katharine.
right. Thank you. Thanks, Tato. All right, let's move on. I've taken up enough time, more than enough time. Sorry about that. Let's now interview. I've got two fantastic entrepreneurs, both ladies, which is great. I like that. So I'm just going to try and share again. Sorry, I'm so a bit ham-fisted about this today somehow. I'm first of all going to speak to Samreen. So Samreen was actually an award winner on our Hloolo Accelerator, just super exciting. So Samreen's going to tell us a little bit about her business, Global Cuisine. I do notice though, Samreen, that you're an accountant. You have 15 years or something as an accountant, which is fantastic, which means I'm sure your accounts are in order, and some of your tracking and performance management, you can be telling us all how to do it. But maybe you jumped out of accounting because that wasn't what really was your passion. That your passion actually was global cuisine. So yeah, over to you, Samreen. Lovely to have you on the call.
Thank you so much, Katharine. Hi everyone. It's lovely to be here. So just a quick little overview on what Global Cuisine is. We're a food manufacturer. We started about 3 years ago. And we manufacture various frozen snacks. So we have quite a few ranges out there. We were very happy to be accepted into the Fetola program, and it was a complete eye-opener for us at the time. We used to have, and well, most companies in the food and beverage industry, it is very, very hard to eliminate sort of your food waste. And once we learned about what circular economy was and the circular economy principles, we really got to work in order to try and minimize our wastage. And when we started Global Cuisine, we were making huge losses, and this was very much due to the waste products that we were generating in some of our categories or lines of our food items. And what we did was we started to research and really go into depth in each and every single department. And we created new products to eliminate the wastage from the previous lines that we were doing, up to a point where we reduced up to 300 kilograms of wastage in terms of our dough, in terms of raw materials, really into now essentially a zero wastage factory, which we're very proud of. And as Katharine mentioned, being an accountant, I can also tell you the financial implications of sort of reducing all of this waste. So, going from 300 kilograms of waste, we had huge losses. And when we eliminated the waste and created new products, we also drove ourselves into a more profitable position to our bottom line, to a point where we were making 1.8 million in losses, to a point now where we're in the clear, in the green. So circular economy does work, and if you really put your mind to it, there are so many various aspects of it. We were also using single-use plastics to line our food trays, whereas now we've got food-grade hard plastic, which we are reusing. So there's various principles in terms of circular economy right throughout our environment that we've implemented, and it's been a journey, and we don't know everything, and we're still learning, but we're hoping to get there eventually. But right now we're at a 0% food waste.
Yeah. Awesome. Samreen, just to go back just a quick couple of points. How long have you been in business?
3 years. Started the business in January 2022.
Fantastic. And so when you came onto the program, did you know about circularity, or was it new for you? Where were you when you kind of joined the Fetola's program?
We had some inkling of it, and what we started to do just before the program was we started to move away from buying from huge suppliers who were also generating quite a bit of wastage to trying to buy directly from farmers. And we visit the farmers market for our fruits and vegetables every Wednesday morning at the Cape markets, and we're trying to build communities in that way as well. And Fetola and the program just elevated that knowledge that we had, and so we were able to start eliminating actual wastage inside the factory at that point.
Fantastic. Okay, that's really great. So would I be right? So as an entrepreneur, for me, the first thing is like design out waste. It seems like so obvious, but there's just something about the circularity concept that you're not just doing it because it's the good thing for business. You're doing it because you have this bigger understanding of actually it's just really bad for the planet, right? So I'm understanding from you that was your starting point. Design out waste was something that really landed for you. What else did you do in order to, as part of your circularity journey in the business?
So the first thing we did was we wanted to support the local farmers. That was the very first step that we took, was buying from local farmers instead of big suppliers. The second thing we did was we started processing our own raw materials. So for example, instead of purchasing onions that were already peeled and diced, we started peeling our onions ourselves. This meant that we did have raw material wastage. We then donated that back to farmers to use as slops in their feeds and things like that. So we wanted to support the local communities as well as supporting local farmers, and we wanted to do a real situation where we incorporated those principles right throughout. When we talk about wastage in terms of inside the factory, we used to have 300 kilograms of raw material wastage in terms of our dough. So we do make puff pastry. We make three kinds of different pastry: puff pastry, short crust pastry, choux pastry, and we've had a lot of wastage in those departments. But what we did was creatively, we got in a consultant and made new products out of the wastage of the old products. So our puff pastry just does generate waste. We create now vol au vents, which is a small little pastry with a hole inside it to sort of minimize that waste. So essentially inside the factory, we also have zero wastage. It is really a journey in terms of you have to get very creative and think outside of the box. And it was a lovely journey for the staff as well, because they were learning about it as we were implementing these changes as well.
Fantastic. So you eliminated waste and created the secondary revenue through your vol au vents. Okay, lovely. So tell me, just very simply, I think you've already said it, but let's just restate it. So circularity has been good for your revenue growth and your profitability?
Absolutely, yes.
And has it allowed you to employ more people?
Yes, absolutely. So we've actually employed 10 more people. We started with 30 in 2024. We now have 40 people. And I think the most wonderful thing is that we are teaching them how to also live a circular economy lifestyle. So our staff members are now living this situation where guys don't waste the water, don't waste, the raw materials. And they are also implementing this in their own homes and their own lifestyles. And that's great, because they are now going to teach that to future generations, and hopefully we can actually help the planet.
That's really powerful. That's kind of the waves of change, isn't it? And I think even since when we started the Circular Economy Accelerator, started talking about it, I think in 2021, people didn't even know what circularity was. It was like, what is that? And now already these kind of waves of change and knowledge are coming. That's fantastic. Very exciting to hear. So maybe just the last couple of questions. So would you, I think it's obvious you would encourage other people to take up circularity, but if you did so, was there what maybe one piece of advice? So if you would say to people, yes, I think it's a great idea, I think you should start by doing, what do you think that is that they should start by doing?
I think you should start by supporting your local communities, because, for example, when you're buying from a huge supplier, you are helping them with their bottom line. And yes, you're supporting jobs, etc. But when you buy from a local community, you are actually helping that specific farmer or local producer to put food on the table and put their kids through college. And that for me is a huge, huge deal, because, you know, we come from that environment where my mom was a local producer and she needed to put us through university, and people supported her in, you know, in her in that capacity. And so I would really love to see people giving back more to their communities, to help elevate their communities. And I think that's very important.
Awesome, thanks, Samreen. So maybe just one last question. Would you recommend people joining a Fetola Circular Economy Accelerator in the future?
Yes, absolutely. Before Fetola, I would have never been sitting here chatting to you guys with a webinar of 98 people. Fetola's given me the confidence to do that, definitely. And they've also helped us to gain so much knowledge. Thank you so much to Fetola, Catherine, and the team.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And then lastly, what's your vision for the next year? What exciting things are happening in your business right now?
Well, we're actually starting to automate some of our processes at the moment. So we're looking at new machineries to automate, and we are definitely looking to produce locally instead of importing some of our products, some of our new lines that we've just introduced this year. So that will mean even more jobs, even more purchasing of local material. So we're very excited for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samreen. You're fantastic. Well done. Well done for your progress. It's really epic. So fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And please do hang on so that we can direct questions to you in the next session. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And now let me move to MEMS. So MEMS Ramalia from BeeAfrican. So MEMS is a lawyer turned honeybee farmer. And so that's something about smooth talking, maybe honey, like a honey voice, going from being a tough lawyer to being a honey producer. But yeah, MEMS, your business is also really new, but started in 2020. You're really understanding you wanted to benefit rural women and youth and leveraging regenerative forestry practices. But I know that lots of exciting things have happened since you were in the Circular Economy Accelerator. So welcome. Tell us briefly about your business and what's happening for you right now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Kathy, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. Well, as Kathy has mentioned, MEMS Ramalia is my name. I am in the beekeeping sector. And speaking of bees, I always wear our brand on our sleeves, but it really doesn't show. So you can see, and we've got a bee here. So anyway, yeah, we in the business of growing the bee population worldwide, in particular Europe and America. The bee population is decimating. And the funniest thing is that bees play a significant role in the food chain. But importantly, bees also play a significant role in restoring biodiversity. So we have been in existence as BeeAfrican for the past 5 years. We run, our business model speaks to a honey aggregator, which means we own the beekeeping value chain. And by that, what I mean is that we manufacture the bee boxes. My younger brother is a fashion designer, so we have outsourced the manufacturing of the protective clothing to him. We also own a commercial honey extraction facility. So the honey aggregator speaks to BeeAfrican, identifying communities that are situated within forest resource, which we'll leverage for honey production. So we identify these communities, we do stakeholder engagement, we speak to the Makhosi, Tato Mushwani, you spoke about a new venture that you've just established. Please, let's talk after this webinar. So we then supply these production inputs, basically your beehives, your bee boxes with swarms of honey, by the way, and the PPE, and we train these communities on sustainable beekeeping. And we then purchase the honey back from them so that they are not stuck with the product. So in a nutshell, that's what BeeAfrican is all about.
Excellent, excellent. That's fantastic. So that sounds like you had a very kind of sustainable, socially aware vision in the first place. Sustainability and social benefit was really something that you had right from the beginning. When you joined the Fetola, the Circular Economy Accelerator, how did the concept of circularity land with you? Were you aware of it, or was it something new for you?
Sure. That's a good question, Kathy. In fact, not. I had a superficial understanding of circularity, very limited knowledge on circularity. I'll give you an example. By then, I was already working with a number of women trying to see if we can really establish this, how the approach to establishing this beekeeping community. And the funny thing is that within that ecosystem of the women I was working with, circularity was only limited to retaining money within our communities until I joined the Fetola Circular Economy Accelerator program, where I got to know, in particular, that circularity is really about designing out waste, eliminating waste, and all of the things that both you and Katharina has spoken about. So yes, being on the program was really an eye-opener. I tend to think of myself as a Fetolan. That's my new word, Kathy. I preach circularity. We have really integrated circular economy principles in the work that we're doing. And I'm happy to give an example. I mentioned that we manufacture bee boxes. So obviously we buy timber, we send this timber. So we realized at first that there was a lot of waste in terms of offcuts from this timber. And really we didn't know what to do with this offtake, except that we would, make fire, from this offtake. Until I got onto the program, and wow, we then decided, okay, let's rather review the usage, the waste that we are making from this offcut. And now what we're doing is that we are remanufacturing, we are extending the product cycle into remanufacturing bee box packaging, gift boxes actually,
okay.
which allows us now to generate more income from that particular.
I love it. So you're using the old hives in order to make gift boxes. Lovely, stunning.
Absolutely.
All right. So tell me, circularity, has it been good for your profitability? Has the business grown as a result of these methods that you've learned?
Absolutely, Kathy. And I really liked what you said about people friendly. And this people-friendly aspect that you spoke about is what I really enjoyed the most as well during my days as a member of the cohort for the program. And I was able to tap into the Fetola ecosystem in order to grow my company. But importantly, I was also able to diversify our products, our product range. As an example, we are now making candles from the beeswax, which is a byproduct from bees. So yes, there is that aspect of diversification. There is an aspect on conservation of the environment by virtue of the role that the bees play, in pollination. Yeah.
Nice. It's a huge opportunity. Bees, you really cross-cut everything, don't you? Regenerating natural landscapes, health, well-being. Yeah, it's such a profound business that you're in. That's fantastic. And tell me, have you managed to increase your job count as a result?
We have. We've got two. My son has just joined us, by the way, so we've got 2 new employees, and my son is on this call as well. But most importantly, we have been able to create additional employment through our honey aggregator business model. So we're running 6 community beekeeping projects, which amount to 27 full-time beekeepers. Wow. And those beekeepers, of course, they take the responsibility of supporting their households. So yeah.
Wonderful. So then I'm going to ask you a difficult question. Have you taught them about circularity? And like Samreen, are all your people also advocates for circularity? Or is that something that we can ask Katharina and her team to come and tell them about?
Yeah, look, there is. I mean, I preach circularity wherever I go. I came back this past Saturday from a 3-week business visit to Germany. It was 17 of us who went there. And I was making presentations and I was talking about circularity. The funny thing is that all 17 of us we are well advanced in the business landscape. But 15 of them did not know anything about circularity. They kept looking at me and saying, "Ma'am, what is this thing that you're talking about?" So really, there is a huge gap for creating more awareness on circularity, and in particular for ensuring that as business practitioners, we integrate circularity principles in our businesses. So yes, Katharina, I'm sure we can talk about how could you reach out to all these organizations that we're working with in terms of driving awareness on circularity. Same applies to you, Kathy.
Thanks, Mams. So maybe just a couple more questions. So would you encourage somebody, another entrepreneur, there are some entrepreneurs in the room, would you encourage them to take up circular methods as a way to make their business more profitable, people-friendly, and planet positive? And if so, what advice would you say their first action should be?
So absolutely, Kathy. I would, and I continue to do that, So what advice? I would say, look, empower yourself first. Get to know what this circularity is all about. And importantly, review your business practices, and see where you generate waste, and begin to rethink about what else could you do with it. How could one convert waste into revenue? That would be the first thing. And as I said, secondly, it's really to get empowered, to really, empower yourself, upskill yourself in terms of circularity principles.
Yeah, and so, I mean, what you're saying is that you don't have to be perfect to start, right? You don't need everything to be done. If you just make one step towards it is better than none. That's fantastic. Mems, I know you've got a really big order. You don't have to tell us the details about it, but I know that you've landed a really significant order. Are you applying for growth finance in order to support that? Is that part of your journey that you need to access growth finance?
It definitely is, Kathy. As I mentioned, with my interaction with the German community. By the way, the Germans are the largest consumer of honey within the EU. And the demand for honey in Germany is just unmet. So I engage with 3 big companies that said to me, "Mems, we need to have your honey in Germany." So from that angle, definitely. And you see, one of my biggest challenge at this stage is to ensure that our honey extraction facility is certified, so that we comply with food safety protocols and all of that. And yes, I might consider applying for funding. I haven't really thought it through as yet, but there is a possibility that I might be on the lookout for funding.
So you are not an accountant. You're an average entrepreneur in that respect. But I'm going to ask you. I hope it's not too difficult a question.
Right.
But what do you measure and monitor? What performance measurements do you take at the moment that you would be able to use as an asset if you went looking for finance? What do you record at the moment? As your performance metrics, your environmental.
Okay, great question. So at the moment, our matrix is basically social, and it's a social in respect to the training that we render to these communities that we work with, but also importantly, the economic metrics, how successful the profit that they are generating from the honey that they are producing. We have recently entered into a partnership with University of Venda for the sole reason of monitoring the environment, because we're really struggling with that. We do not have the technical expertise to measure the environment impact, but socio and economic factors, we really have been able to measure that, as I said.
Nice, thanks, Mems. I mean, that's something I didn't touch on in my presentation, but we do know that one of the big challenges for small businesses is how do you monitor those kind of non-traditional metrics, such as the environment, water, energy, all of that. And so that is a conversation that we need to take forward as a collective, because if you can't measure it and report it, it didn't exist. It's a bit like if I don't run and turn my Garmin watch on, I didn't really run. And so, so I do think that there's a conversation that we as a collective need to solve. So fantastic. Thanks, Mems. Maybe just one last question. I'm going to ask you this one. You obviously had benefit from attending the Fetola workshop, or was Fetola Accelerator. Would you recommend other people to join that in the future?
Absolutely, guys. Consider enrolling yourself on this Accelerator program. You've got so much to benefit out of it. And yes, as you heard about the Fetola offering, funding, knowledge sharing, the ecosystem networking. So yes, definitely, Fetola is the way to go. Circular Economy Accelerator is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mems. And good luck. I know you have a really, really exciting year coming up. Good luck for that. We look forward to tracking your future success. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kitty, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Back to you, Katharina.
Thank you so much, Mems. Thanks, Catherine. And thank you, Samreen, for sharing this insight. I'm so excited. I couldn't stop listening. I wish this conversation would go on for hours. I know that we've answered some questions already, but I would ask our participants, please just pop your questions in the Q&A session as well, so that you can get the answers from Catherine, Mems, and Samreen as well. Now is the time to pick their brains, I think. But maybe what I could do is actually start with a question to Catherine, because obviously we strongly believe that circularity in business makes sense, and it really is a necessary, right? It's not just a nice tick box exercise anymore. But what do you think sometimes are the big barriers, especially also for corporates, to take up circularity? Is it just a lack of awareness? Is it the structures that they're already embedded, right? Because I think as an SME, you're a bit more agile compared to a corporate. And what is your experience if you're engaging with companies? Because obviously at the end, they're also looking at the bottom line. And currently we know geopolitical tensions are also not so easy.
Yeah, thanks, Katharina. I mean, I think that a lot of the time there is a confusion that you have to be circular or nothing.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying that it's important that it's a journey. No company actually is circular. It's like this dream. It's like the gold at the end of the rainbow. And so I think it's important to show people that it is a journey, that you can do it in small steps, and that every step makes a difference. I also think from a business perspective, it's important to understand that it really is profitable, because that mindset that sustainability is just a nice to have, I think, has really been blown out of the water with circularity. It's a whole different level of profit opportunities, good profit for good. So I think that's probably the first thing, is that it's not costly. I mean, maybe those are just the two. I think that they're very profound. I think consumers now are looking for businesses and for products that are really good all through and through, that are not only affordable, but they're good for people and good for planet. And so I think from a corporate perspective, if you can just explain the first steps, how to get onto it, I think it's a very easy thing to motivate.
Yeah, fantastic.
I found it to be easy to motivate. Maybe that's what I should say, is having done sustainability for 10 years prior to this, where people were just saying, yeah, it's interesting, but they wouldn't pay for it. Now, all of a sudden, everybody from corporates all the way down to small businesses are really sitting up and taking notice, because it's just logical. It just makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think this is very, very great insights. It's also how we shape a narrative around circularity and communicate that, right? Because you can easily fall into the category of being seen a tree hugger, which is not a bad thing, but at the end of the day, it is bottom line. So maybe, Mems, I'm going to turn to you, because I think that's amazing that you're actually, getting into a German market as well. You have to get the facility approved. I think there maybe who you could also reach out to is the Technology Innovation Agency. and the technology stations which sit within universities as well. So that might be a nice other link for you to look at as well, because they're supposed to also help SMEs from a technology level. But I think what you spoke to me, or what resonated with me, is like, from a supply chain perspective, do you find collaboration with others in the supply chain and value chain really crucial to build a sustainable business model? How is that for you, or how has that journey been for you?
That is at the core of what we do. I mean, by virtue of the fact that we establish these community beekeeping enterprises, I mean, that already speaks to resilience in terms of supply chain for the honey that we purchase back from them. That's number one. But also just the networking aspect of it, the networking with organizations such as Fetola, and by the way, Katharina, I attend the circularity lunch. I'm one of the members of the circularity lunch club, Yeah. So also that is very, very significant. And I've already started to engage, and we're establishing collaboration with some of the people that have been on the circularity lunch clubs. So yeah, indeed, supply chain is very key, but importantly, the resilience thereof, I mean, with Trump's trade tariffs, and all of that. So we need to start looking into resilience in the supply chain. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And maybe just a follow-up question, because in my previous life, I actually worked with honeybees. So I'm very excited about your project. Because you already mentioned that you're using the beeswax to make the candles, which is fantastic compared to the standard candles that we usually get in the stores, which are also petroleum based. But are there any other products that you have thought of? Because I mean, propolis and all those beautiful products that the bees are producing that have been previously discarded, could be input for cosmetics, let's say.
Absolutely. So there's a lady in Pretoria. She owns a distillery. So last year I engaged her with a view to say, would you be interested in manufacturing honey liqueur for us? So yes, we are considering that. We've already spoken to other beekeepers. The beekeeping sector is very small in South Africa. And we've been purchasing meat, which is honey wine from them. And we are saying to them, you guys, would really like you to teach us how to make this sort of products. And on propolis, definitely, we don't get to harvest a lot of propolis, but from the beeswax, definitely there are various byproducts that one can make from that. As I mentioned, we spoke of candles and definitely cosmetics. So my son is on this call, and he's very keen about making cosmetic products from the beeswax.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think you would have actually quite a big market, not only in South Africa, but also overseas.
Yeah, true.
As the honey that sometimes comes into countries, and we have it in South Africa as well, is, diluted with sugar water as well. So I think, again, using your purity as this brand is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Katharina, we got some interesting questions in the Q&A, particularly. It must be Major Munch Anderson. I really like that. I thought maybe he could put it into the group. I don't know what CEE ship policies are, so maybe it would be really good to have an understanding of that. I don't know if you can see that question.
Yeah, let me also try to decipher it. Your program seems highly successful. Yes, that's true. What lessons are there for green industries? I think, is it industrial policies in the Global South? Could circular economy policy also be connected to eco-industrial parks and hence more regionally based? Yes, absolutely. And I think if you speak about industrial parks, please have a look at the National Clean and Production Center of South Africa. We collaborate with them as well. They are actually working quite strongly on how eco-industrial parks become more circular, because obviously industrial symbiosis is a part of circularity, right? It's one of the first concepts that speaks to circularity. And if you want to look at it, an exciting case study that is Atlantis, as he said, which is in the Western Cape. And they have really this very green eco-industrial park that they're going to build. They're going to be negative water. So it's not even about like reducing water, but they actually want to contribute to water sustainability. So have a look at them. And they're also looking at green tech entrepreneurs to produce, for example, PV solar panels. So definitely, I'm not sure, Katharine, if you want to add to it.
Sounds great. No, that sounds really fascinating. I like that thought. Thank you so much for dropping it in.
Perfect. And then we do have one question which I'm unsure about how to answer, and maybe someone else can. It's from Jerome, is around with respect to asbestos abatement, specifically landfilling. Do you also insist in advising with profitability in terms of changing the business? I assume that's more linked to the built environment. Obviously, you shouldn't, we should replace asbestos. And I know landfilling is not the most sustainable option. We still have a massive issue of what's ending up in our landfills currently. So, and I think Suzanne can speak bandwidths around e-waste as well, and medical waste, that actually needs to be incinerated or dismantled. So we're losing a massive amount of economic potential in the landfills, especially also if we're looking at the organic waste side of things. And I think there, what is very exciting, what comes to the forefront, is the black soldier flies. So it's not just composting, it's really about how do we create animal protein in a sustainable manner and can actually replace other animal protein, like, for example, fish oils, which is contributing to overfishing. So there, have a look at that one as well. And otherwise, the Green Building Council of South Africa also has some really nice information materials around green building, but we can also have a chat offline, Jerome, about that. Okay, then I just want to also ask both Samreen and Mems one more question around, you have spoken a bit about barriers, but I would actually like maybe Samreen first about what was one of the really difficult barriers that you had to overcome as a team within your circular economy journey? Or maybe you can even speak to a present barrier that you need to overcome.
So, Katharina, so carry on, Samreen.
Hi, sorry about that, Mims. So Katharina, I think one of the main things is knowledge sharing, and trying to get everybody on board to really live the principles. That is the most difficult thing, because it is so easy to go back into old habits and do what you've always done before, but it really takes 3 months to build a habit, and it's constant training. I think that was the most difficult part of really getting onto the journey and really trying to incorporate it in all aspects. So whether it's plastic use or wastage, or trying to figure out what to do with this particular waste, that's the most difficult part. And I think that getting creative is really difficult. And I think that, it just takes a lot of perseverance. Onto you, Mems.
Thank you. Maybe, Mems, I can just intervene there just quickly. And I think this is what we have set up CSA to do, is to do the knowledge sharing, the awareness raising, but also to really highlight the successful case studies that are also out there. So any entrepreneur that's on the call and you're busy in circularity, please submit yourself as a case study to Circular South Africa as well. We have mapped out more than 200 circular economy case studies in the country. But I know for a fact there are many more out there, and we really want to make sure we highlight them so that we can also draw attention to you and build this collaborative network that you can engage, like Mems is already doing in the Lunch Club, which is fantastic to see. So Mems, over to you.
Okay, so I would say 2 major barriers for me. The first one was scaling up my company. And I realized that there was no way I could have scaled up my company without owning the value chain. So it is very, very important that as entrepreneurs, we should consider ownership of the value chain, because that allows you to diversify, your product or your service offering. That allows you to get into the manufacturing space. That allows you to have the how do I say this? To wear this lens through which you are able to identify a lot of opportunities out there. So that was the first barrier, which I overcame, as I said. The second barrier, which I haven't overcome yet, is the certification of our honey extraction facility. But it's something that we are working on. And I always say to my team, if there's anything that stands between us and success, is the certification of our honey extraction facility. So yeah, I know that as soon as we are able to start working on it and ensuring that honey protocols are observed as we handle the honey, we will be able to say, yeah, we have made it within the honey industry or the beekeeping sector in South Africa. So yeah, those are the two. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, Mems, please also reach out. We can also connect you to some of the German entities if that market is of interest to you. Perfect. Then one last question to Katharine. I see from Mabato, there is a question around, I'm just interested in knowing how much is profitability. Katharine indicated that one must showcase that a business model is profitable. So I think it's just understanding, like, what does it mean to be profitable for the entrepreneur? I assume it is an entrepreneur on the call.
So the question, what does it mean to be profitable? So profitability is, in its very simplistic terms, and I'm not quite sure that we are understanding the question. Profitability would just mean that at the end of the day, you have more money left over than you've spent, in very simplistic terms. So often what happens is that when a business first starts out, it's in a loss-making situation. And so what we try to do is to shorten that gap as much as possible. So if you're somebody that's just starting out, it's just to make sure that you're really starting to, you're building revenue, you're selling your products very, very quickly. You don't have a long kind of thinking or investment time before you get money coming in. But profitability basically would just kind of means that you're making more money than, you've got money left over at the end of the month.
And I think what you were also iterating or speaking to is making sure that your business model is working, right?
Yeah. So and that's part of what was so exciting about this circular economy accelerator was that people were able to look at different ways of bringing money in. And so then it meant that you have different types of revenue. So different markets, different products, you had a lot of diversity of revenue coming in, with almost the same overheads. And so that means that you've got more money coming in than you're spending. So you have more profit at the end.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. I think
so I just maybe wanted to close with something,
Sure.
Katharina, is that we have some very exciting work that we're doing with corporates in their supply chains. So our corporate partners that are really looking to improve their sustainability, they want both social and environmental impact. That we're working with them, with their suppliers, all the way through their broad value chain in order to make every single supplier aware of circularity. And I think it's very profound. You did say, how do we get corporates to come on board? And I think some of it is really just about, it doesn't have to be rocket science. But if you engage with us in order to work all the way through your value chain, we can help you to make every single one of your suppliers more sustainable, more environmentally and socially sustainable using circularity. And I think that's something that's very exciting. That's coming more and more to us from our corporate partners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you speak about that crucial part is, having a 100% circularity model doesn't as such exist. It can't be done, right, from a thermodynamics law already. So you're always going to have some losses along the way if you use, for example, energy. But I think doing those little steps along the way, that's the most important part. And I think when people hear about circularity or firstly engage with it, maybe there's also a feeling of feeling overwhelmed, right? It's like, shoo, where do I actually start as a company to do this and tackle this? Okay. Nice. That said, I think we are coming to the end of the webinar. I'm not sure if Katharine, if you want to say some last words before I close it off. I definitely want to thank you all, our audience as well, and participants who have asked the questions and who have spent their valuable times today with us today. So maybe Katharine, I just give it over to you quickly and then I'll close it off.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. Thanks, Katharina, for the opportunity. Really proud of this partnership between CSA and ourselves. I think I want to thank everybody for spending the time to come on board. I hope it was interesting. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you come close. So please do join us. Do become part of Fetola's network. We'd love to engage with you further in the future. And thank you so much to Mems and Samreen for giving us your wisdom. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Catherine. Again, thanks so much to the Fetola and Hloolo team, and obviously also Mems and Samreen who are online at the call. So I think as I said, we've come up to the end. Please fill in our survey for the webinar to just rate our webinar. It helps us to keep going as Circular South Africa and actually do what we need to do around knowledge sharing and creating that awareness in South Africa, but also making sure that we understand who is in the ecosystem and how we can actually help you to connect to one another. I think today's webinar was really eye-opening. If I would be an entrepreneur, there's lots to unpack. There's lots of resources actually out there. As I said, reach out to Fetola, reach out to us to see how we can help you. And I think for me, what resonated strongly is around making sure there's a behavioral and a mindset change that has to happen in businesses, starting small, but also creating that self-sufficiency in your local ecosystem as well. And I think with that, I can close it off. Thanks everyone for joining today and have a lovely afternoon.